Hello, everybody. I'm Mel Doerr, the Aloha Shirt Psychic, and I just wanted to do a quick video today about everything that's going on. Oh my goodness. I was going to do a video with Kevin on Thursday night, but I had forgotten that Kevin had other things he needed to do. So we'll do live this coming Thursday. And always morning moments with Mel. I'll do more of those. This is an afternoon with Mel. Monday nights, Aloha Oracle for members only. That's put up the next day. Tuesdays with Arthur. Every other Wednesday with Kim Copeland. Thursdays with Kevin. And Fridays, day off. Anyway, happy Friday, everybody. I want everyone to send healing love and energy to Jeffrey Stein. He had his surgery this morning at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time, and I haven't talked to his brother yet to see how Jeff is doing. I think I'll wait until tomorrow, but I'll keep everybody posted. So everybody, please send Jeffrey lots of love and healing. You know, he had oral cancer on his tongue, and I made a promise to Spirit after I recovered from cancer that if anybody was diagnosed with cancer, especially oropharyngeal cancer, that would help them as much as possible. So one other piece of business, be sure to inquire about our event in September. It's the end of September of this year. Call my office, 847-590-5411, or email me, www.meldoerr.com. The other thing is I have a trip going to the Italian and French Riviera in May, and a trip to Peru in September of next year. So I'm getting excited about our Africa trip. I'm getting excited about our Rhine River trip this year. And so business done. All right. Thank you for your loving support. So let's get down to business. The Trump trial. You know, my guides had shown me that Donald Trump and his defense team would start caterwauling. I love that word. In the South, is caterwauling about a mistrial. And boy, were my guides right on the money on that one. Trump and his law team are trying to set it up in the court where, on appeal, that the verdict can be overturned because of a mistrial, and then Trump would have to go through a trial all over again, and that's a delay to try to postpone the trial if there is a mistrial, or if the case is turned over in appeal. It's a tactic to try to delay this until after the election, and Trump is hopping mad because he had to go to trial before the election. And he's yelling, and oh, I can't go out and campaign. Well, Donald, you're off on Wednesdays. You could go out and campaign, but you're busy on the golf course. Or about going to your son's graduation. The judge never said you couldn't go to your son's graduation. It makes me wonder, who is in charge of Trump's defense team? His attorneys or Trump? And my guides are telling me, and it's pretty obvious as well, that Donald Trump is directing his attorneys from every angle, and sometimes against their better advice as lawyers, because as lawyers, they know better. So he's going to keep yelling mistrial, mistrial, mistrial. It's not going to work. I see him convicted and found guilty, and I see a sentence of jail time. Whether or not he serves it is irrelevant. Well, it's not irrelevant, but I still, it's funny. I just never saw him in jail. But I see a conviction. So he'll keep trying this mistrial nonsense. And then what he's doing is he's having some of his cronies from the MAGA party. I won't say Republican, I'll say MAGA party, because now there's Republicans and there's MAGA. The MAGA is like a third party, in my opinion. His cronies from the Senate coming into the courtroom. And what Trump is doing, my psychic light bulb went up. And Trump is using some of those people, one in particular, whose name I won't mention. Trump is using that man to make public statements for Trump under the auspices that they're not coming from Trump. In other words, to talk about the trial, how unfair it is, blah, blah, blah. But it's going to come out some way or another that Trump did tell this senator, or I think it was the House or Senate, I don't know, to talk about this. Now, the judge has already said he can't do it through a second, third, fourth, or fifth party, but Trump, he always is so vindictive and he always wants to punch back. Anyway, it's going to come out that Trump's team did influence some of these politicians to talk about this case publicly and to vilify witnesses and to vilify the judge and our criminal process. Like, it's unconstitutional, it's a witch hunt, blah, blah, blah. But bet your bottom dollar, if that had been an independent or just a regular Republican or a Democrat who had pulled one iota of what Donald Trump has done, they would have had to go through trial. They would have been locked up yesterday. So Trump is going to keep trying this. My guides tell me this mistrial stuff. And boy, they were right on about it. But the judge is going to keep denying. You know, they're saying that the Stormy Daniels evidence, I don't know if they said it was too incriminating, but it was too whatever words they used. But the judge said to them, well, then why didn't you object? Stormy Daniels, in my opinion, my psychic opinion, was very convincing to the jury. She stuck by her story. And the female lawyer on Trump's side, I cannot pronounce her last name. You'll have to forgive me. I think it is Susan Neshelas. I can't pronounce her last name. But people were commenting on the way that she treated Stormy Daniels. It was pretty brutal. But Stormy Daniels held her own. And it made Trump's defense team look really, 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 really bad to the jury. That's what my guides tell me. They really did a poor job with direct examination or redirect or whatever you call it of Stormy Daniels. They didn't do a very good job because they kept needling small points and trying to make her look really sleazy. And it really made them look bad. And the jury's going to comment that they didn't treat other witnesses that way, the other female witnesses or anybody else for that matter. So my guides tell me that part backfired. And just wait until Cohen gets on the stand. Ooh, 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 ooh. That's going to be a you-know-what show. Starts with S. They're going to try, Trump's team obviously is going to try to discredit Cohen and like, you know, he's a convicted felon, you're this, you're that, blah, blah, blah. And I see a lot of objections coming from the prosecution, which the judge will sustain, not overrule. So this judge has done everything in his power to be fair, really fair. And so they can't say the judge is being unfair. Well, they say it is not true. Unlike Eileen Cannon on that case, which we'll talk about in a second. So Cohen on the stand is going to be pretty damning. So I guess the question is, it might fall, the guilt or innocence here might even be weighed on just a few sentences. In other words, was it a bookkeeping error, or did Trump know that he was paying hush money to Stormy Daniels to gain favor so he could win the election, or so it didn't look bad? And my feeling is the prosecution is really going to prove their point on this. Really prove their point. So I see a guilty plea or a guilty verdict. It's going to come out at some point after this. My light bulb went off that Trump's team and some people tried to get to some of their jurors. And now that is a crime unto itself. But that's a while off yet. But Cohen's testimony is going to be equally as damning as Stormy Daniels. And even Trump's assistant that testified, it looked like she was in favor of Donald Trump, but still, it did not look good for Donald Trump. So we know that Trump will appeal the case. And, and he's going to try, his lawyer's going to try to say there should have been a mistrial. But I see that a court of appeals will say, no, there's nothing here that occurred that wasn't within the limits of the law. And I think an appeals court will hold the decision of this court. Now, Trump will appeal it to SCOTUS because he thinks he's got them on his side. But if SCOTUS is, sorry about that, if SCOTUS is smart, they won't even hear the case. I don't think they will. I think SCOTUS will uphold the decision of the lower court. I think Westerhout or something that testified for Trump, she was his assistant. She said that Donald Trump was very detail oriented and always knew where things were. And Trump is saying, oh, it was a bookkeeping error. I didn't know what I was signing. I just signed checks. Well, that testimony, or Trump's defense that I didn't know that what I was signing, I just signed like I always did. It was a bookkeeping error. Well, Westerhout or Rusterhout, however you pronounce her name, her testimony really blew what Trump was saying, that he didn't know what he was signing, out of the water, because somebody that detail oriented would clearly know what they're signing and why they're signing it. So that defense isn't going to hold water. And Cohen is going to be equally, or Cohen, however you say it, is going to be as equally damning for Trump and his testimony. And Cohen is going to be able to hold his own when Donald Trump's team starts asking him questions. And they're going to get kind of nasty with Cohen, but I want to tell you something. Cohen will not bow down to that. And Cohen is smart enough to know some of the questions that Trump's people are asking him. They're doing it to try to declare a mistrial. And Cohen will be able to dance around that. So Trump's team will continue to try these little shenanigans in the courtroom to get a mistrial, but it will not work. I'm telling you, it won't work. Even if it was a mistrial, there will be a retrial and Trump will be found guilty. But okay. Also, Trump defied the gag order again. What does that tell you? And I see the judge, if Trump keeps it up, the judge is going to tell him, away you go, buddy. So, some of the things that Trump had called Stormy Daniels was not nice, but, Susan's cross-examination of Stormy Daniels clearly was not endearing to the jury. And the jury, my guides tell me, knew that Stormy Daniels was telling the truth, that she was absolutely not making this up. So, Trump was saying that, he and Melania didn't sleep in the same room and blah, 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 blah. And Stormy testified to all that. So it didn't really look good for him. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. They're thinking this trial will be wrapped up by next week, but my guy told me it might take a little bit longer. And the jury, they'll deliberate quite a while, but the jury, I see psychically, is now really more inclined to believe the prosecution and not the defense. The other thing is, on the documents trial, federal judge kicked the Canon. The trial was supposed to take place May the 20th. Well, obviously that couldn't happen because of what's going on with New York. But they said she delayed the trial indefinitely. I think they said until June or something like that. And this judge, Canon, had trips that she did not disclose, which should have been disclosed. And it's pretty obvious. My guides tell me that Trump's people are talking to her behind the scenes, supposedly unbeknown to anybody. But I'm also foreseeing that there will be whistleblowers that will come forward and have proof that, in fact, there were people behind the scenes from the Trump team talking to this judge to try to influence the case for entertainment purposes only. So, she's going to try to pull more shenanigans as Judge Canon. And I see Smith taking it to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And because of the stuff she's doing, I see them removing her from this case and putting another judge on. Now, that's going to delay the case even more, but at least it would be a fair-minded judge and somebody who knows the law, which obviously Judge Canon doesn't. Or if she does, and she's using the law as an excuse, or that's even worse. But it's clear what's going on. But I see her off that case, and I do see that case coming to trial as well. I do. So there we have that. Okay. Today, the United Nations voted to grant new rights to Palestine and revive their membership bid. Obviously, Israel was against it, but I think 141 countries voted for it. People are saying that about the whole Rafah thing and about Netanyahu invading Rafah. Netanyahu is the one that told the people to go there, that they would be safe. And now he's invading or attacking Rafah. And my guides are telling me behind closed doors that Biden is telling Netanyahu, if you continue this, I'll keep the money that was appropriated to you and the weapons in my pocket. So Biden is getting tough. Now, the ultra-right wing in Israel, the little Netanyahu make Israel great little cronies, all right, are saying, oh, that they've been such a great ally to the United States, and how can we turn on them? That is the rhetoric coming from Netanyahu and his little group of cronies, because they want to make it look good for, guess who? Donald Trump. Because if they can get Donald Trump in office, they know that Donald Trump will let Netanyahu do anything Netanyahu wants. Well, that's not going to work either. Because I see the Israeli people standing up against Netanyahu because they're hopping mad about the hostages. And there was a deal on the table that Netanyahu said no. It was from, I think, Egypt and Qatar, or Qatar, however you pronounce it. And it's striking a deal, a ceasefire with Hamas and with Israel. However, in defense of Israel, Hamas needs to be a little bit more flexible as well. So this conflict is about Hamas and Israel. It's not about the Palestinian people. And they are innocent victims of this. And the killing has got to stop. It has got to stop. And it will, a lot sooner than later. So Steve Bannon, his case, for blowing off the Senate or the House where he was supposed to go testify, and he was sentenced to jail. He appealed, in the case, the appeals court didn't hear it. So I see Bannon going to jail. for at least 4 to 6 months. I think he should do longer, but I think it was for contempt of Congress. He's going to appeal it to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, but they won't hear the appeal. And he is going to go to SCOTUS or try to go to SCOTUS. But my feeling is SCOTUS will not hear that case at all. So, Steve, you're going to have to do your jail time. You're not going to get out of it. He thinks he can push it off till after the election. So if Trump gets elected, then Trump will pardon him. But I've always seen Bannon in jail. Okay, I'm looking at my notes here. Back to, I think I just said about Israel that, Netanyahu told Palestinians to go there to be safe, and now he tells them to leave. Well, where are they going to go? So a lot more of that's going to come out too. Okay. The war in Ukraine, it looks like the Russian forces launched an armored guard attack today in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. Ukraine sent in reinforcements as a fighting raged in border area of the region. Russia has begun this new wave of counteroffensive actions. And my guides tell me that Putin is preparing a huge offensive this spring or summer up north, and then one near Kharkiv, in order to spread thin the Ukrainian troops, and the thinking that they won't be able to defend those places so that Putin can come in and take over more of Ukraine. It's going to be a massive offensive coming there this summer from Russia. That's why it's so important that Ukraine got that money from the United States, because they need weapons, they need people, and they need airplanes, and they're going to get them. I see them getting them. And they're going to, Russia will take a few steps forward and then 3 or 4 steps backwards. So even though it looks like Russia might win a few battles, they will absolutely not win the war. Ukrainians will not stop fighting. It's probably old news right now, but remember this week was it when Marjorie Taylor Greene made the attempt to oust Speaker Johnson? And she didn't get much support on that at all. And then when they asked her about it, she said, "Oh, it looks like the Democrats got that those Democrats were now able to influence Republicans, and those Republicans should be really Democrats." It was just BS. I mean, I heard one Republican House member say, "Oh, Marjorie, did a laser beam from space tell you to come up with this ouster plan for Johnson?" Even Democrats voted to keep Johnson in. And, a lot of Republicans did, because this nonsense that she's doing just has to end. And I see her in hot water as well. So she's going to try to pull this nonsense again, but she will not get very far whatsoever. And now Johnson is trying to pander to the MAGAs, because he said, well, after the election, the Republicans are going to take over the House, they're going to take over the Senate and the presidency, and then everything will do a complete 180. Excuse me, how about having the MAGAs and the people in the House to do their job and govern, instead of getting hung up in all this conspiracy bullshit, pardon my language, and trying to oust somebody just because that speaker doesn't go along with their nonsense. I see an end to that, and I see legislation changing to say that if you're going to oust a Speaker of the House, that you have to have more of a reason than just wanting to get rid of him because him or her didn't go along with necessarily what you wanted. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is putting nails in her coffin politically, And my guides show me she'll be gone. And I don't think she realizes but the bad part is this brought her in a lot of money, but I don't see her being successful in it at all. Now, but then Johnson here again, pandering, said, oh, well, that the House and Senate will change. I don't see that. And I heard on the news this morning that Biden is trailing in some of the swing states, but that will change. Biden just needs to be more dynamic and more outspoken about the things he's done. And they are going to start using that. And they're going to start very, very soon. Like, here's what we've done. Here's what we're going to do. Alan Lichtman is predicted every presidential race correctly since the 1980s. And my feeling is that Lichtman is going to predict Biden winning this. And he's been accurate. He's been very, very accurate. So Biden will get more vocal, and he's going to really talk about workers' rights and Roe v. Wade and all of that in those swing states. So, don't get nervous when you hear the polls. It's way too early to make any assumptions about that. But Marjorie Taylor Greene will try some more shenanigans, but my guides tell me she will not be successful. The thing I like is there were Republicans standing up to her and saying, no, we need to govern. So we know that behind the scenes, Donald Trump is telling Marjorie Taylor Greene what to do. But at some point, he can wash his hands of it and say, well, here's what I said. I never said that. But there's going to be some people that'll come forward to prove what I've just said. What my guides have told me, that Trump was influencing Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she is not a congressperson to help her constituents. She's there to help herself. She really is. And that's all going to come out. And there's a couple, 2 or 3 more that was going to get bitten in the butt by it. As I said, I do think SCOTUS will remand the case on the insurrection back down to Judge Chutkan, so they have to listen to what's presidential, what's not, blah, blah, blah. Pick the can, SCOTUS. But I do see it coming to trial, even if it's after the election, and I see Trump convicted federally. And here again, I'll say what I said earlier when Trump's person, Westerhout or whatever her name was, testified that he's so detail-oriented, and always knew where things were. Then on the documents case, that's not going to look good, because it's going to be like, well, if you knew where everything was, where and why did documents end up missing? And why were they put in boxes that weren't even labeled? The other part on her testimony, they're going to use her in both trials coming up, I think, even in Georgia, but use her or have her testify in the insurrection trial. Because here again, if he knows where everything is and knew where all things were, then how could he claim that he didn't really know anything about the insurrection? Trump and his cronies had a plan that if he lost, we know they were going to put fake electors in, and he's going to be tried and found guilty for that. And also, my guides tell me that he planned, and if that didn't work, to plan to overturn the government. And so he didn't just plan this on that day. This had been planned for months and months and months. And they'll bring up tapes in this trial when it happens. I'm talking about the insurrection trial, that will say, when they asked Trump, will you, and I remember this on television, when they asked him, will you, turn over, office to Biden if he wins, in a nice way. Trump said that's yet to be determined. And it'll come out when he was sending the message to the Proud Boys and all that, stand prepared. That's all going to be used against him. So, and those things weren't being done as presidential. Those are being done to overturn illegally an election and create an insurrection. So now, Trump will be found guilty on the insurrection stuff as well. And then it'll go to SCOTUS, and then they'll hear it. And they might say, okay, you couldn't use this, you couldn't use that, but this, and this that they could use. It wasn't presidential, it was private, it shouldn't have happened. And so that's the way they'll dance around it. But I see Trump convicted. On a lot of those charges on the insurrection. The documents case, if they don't get Eileen Cannon off this case, Trump's going to walk free on that. But I see a different judge coming in. Also, Georgia. I've got a sneaking feeling that case would happen before the election. I got a sneaking feeling about it. But Trump and his team down there delay, because now it's at the state Supreme Court or wherever. Like, should Fani Willis be taken off the case? And my feeling is that the Supreme Court in Georgia is going to say, no, Fani can stay on the case. Now, is that grounds for appeal to higher up? Maybe, but in a way, for Trump appealing it to the Georgia Supreme Court to see if Fani Willis should be taken off the case or not. This way, when it does come to trial, and Trump wants to file an appeal with Georgia Supreme Court, because Trump is going to try to say, well, Fani Willis was prejudiced, she shouldn't have been on the case. The Supreme Court's going to say, no, we've already made a decision on that. So, appeal denied. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Trump thinks he's out of the woods. And the reason he is so quiet in court and scowling and all that, it's got to be torture for him because he can't pick on anybody. And the same will happen in Georgia. That judge down there will not put up with any nonsense because Trump is going to do the same thing down there. Vilifying witnesses, vilifying Fani Willis, I'm sorry, not Fani Brown, Fani Willis, vilifying the judge, but it will not work. The judge down there will issue a gag order and be strict about it. So we'll see that trial coming about. I got a funny feeling. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll come out and say I'm wrong. But I got a funny feeling they're going to try to get that one in before the election. The reason Trump is appealing it to the Supreme Court down there is because here again it's a delay tactic. Let me delay it until after the election. But my feeling is he won't win it. All right, everybody, I'm going to run. I got a lot in today. Just wow. So be watching for Morning Moments with Mel. I'll probably do one like Saturday morning or Sunday morning. And I'll do a couple next week. And I'll do a couple Morning Moments with Mel, a couple 2 or 3 times a week. And then my evening shows. So this is more like a late afternoon moment with Mel. Everybody stay well, stay safe. And thank you for sending Jeffrey Stein all the healing, love, and energy. I thank you for your wonderful support. I love all of you. And stay well, stay safe. Aloha and namaste.